Hello and welcome to a very special episode of Photography Out Loud with your hosts Paul Davis and Joel Longbone. How are you doing? You all right, mate?
Yeah, good. You didn't do any
Yeah.
crazy intro this time.
I know. I was thinking that I forgot, to be honest. When it was counting down, I was saying, "Oh, I've got to do another intro." So I'll have to think of something. So
Do a
yeah,
good outro.
very special episode I came up with this week, which is absolutely poor. It really is.
Yeah, it's like a 1 or a 2 out of 10, isn't it?
Yeah. So, but that's like it's like the safety bank gone now, isn't it? Like I've used
Yeah.
that.
Never allowed to use that one again.
Yeah. No, definitely.
I think there's got to be a 6-month cap before you can use it again.
Yeah, which is going to be absolutely hopeless because you know what my memory is like. So,
Civ, Colander.
yeah, that's the one. Just add it to my many failures.
Oh, there's not that many.
Yeah, well, let's not list them. Yes, very special episode this week.
Yeah.
So, because it is Canon Week this week as well, so very special Canon Week. So, Canon have been doing a lot online this week with lots of interviews across the board with different retailers like ourselves. So lots of fun stuff, and we get to end it on a high, which is absolutely fantastic.
Leave the best till last, as they say.
Oh, definitely. So, we shouldn't really dawdle either, should we? Should we get our special guest in?
We should.
Everyone, I'd like to introduce Wanda Martin.
Hey.
Hello,
Wanda.
How are you? I would have loved to see that crazy intro.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. I should. Damn. That's it.
We'll try for a better outro, Paul. Start writing it now.
You know what my normal outros are like? Absolutely awful. So that won't take too much, will it? So, how you been, Wanda? You been all right?
Good, thank you. How are you guys?
Good.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
I think we should start the conversation by asking where you currently are, Wanda, just so that we can give a reason as to why there might be technical issues in terms of lag.
I mean, I'm in Hungary at the moment, in Budapest, which is the capital, but it's not the end of the world. So hopefully,
no, so it's just yeah. If the internet goes laggy, it's either us or Wanda because we're so far away from each other. So
I know.
But you gotta love the internet, haven't you? And live videos for a good internet connection.
Yeah. So I'm usually based in London, but because of the COVID situation, I spent quite a lot of time in Hungary in the last 1 year because originally I'm from here. So right now I'm here learning to drive, working a lot, and I'm planning to be properly back in London end of August. So that's
back in the UK. Good time.
You're looking forward to getting back?
Yeah. Although I'm no.
I bet the weather's better there, isn't it?
Definitely. Well, it's way too hot now here. But yeah, I'm that kind of person. When I'm in Budapest, I'm enjoying myself and I don't miss London. And when I'm in London, I just don't miss Hungary. So I'm just enjoying myself wherever I am.
That's good. It's a good way to be. Be content where you are at the time. That's good. So let's get into it with our first question. And just before we carry on, guys, if you do have any questions for Wanda, pop them in the comments and we will hopefully be able to ask them towards the end of the video. Or if they pop up at a time that works for asking, then we will. So yeah, any questions for Wanda, pop them in the comments. So first question, how did you get into photography? I feel like that's the question every photographer gets asked, but it seems like a good starter, soft intro. So
I'm happily telling you about it. As I said originally, I'm from Hungary. Actually, I'm from the countryside of Hungary, and I'm coming from a family of artists. So my father is a photographer, and he was the one who bought me my first camera when I was 15 or 16. And even though he never really wanted me to be a photographer, become a photographer, because obviously he saw the ups and downs and how difficult it could be. And I always had good grades at school and just wanted me to do something more like normal or financially stable, to be a doctor or a lawyer or something. It didn't happen, but it was still him who told me that the technical technicalities of photography, the basics, and some history of photography. So yeah, that was basically him. And I did some painting as well when I was a teenager, but I think I'm way too impatient, and I always wanted to see, the result instantly. So when I started photography, I just fell in love with it within a second. And I applied for a university in Budapest, where I studied actually conceptual fine art photography. My father was not very happy about my decision, but I guess eventually he had to accept it.
Sure.
So what did your father do then as a photographer?
So he started out as a photojournalist, so he did documentaries. Okay. And later on, I think I'm going to talk about it a little bit more because we have a new based on this. But yeah, he started out as a documentary photographer, and later on he did a little bit of fashion, advertising, and during the whole time actually he had his own personal projects as well. Well, he had some books and exhibitions of like female nudes, and so a little bit of everything it did.
So did that kind of inform your direction in terms of portrait kind of fashion photography then? Was it your father that influenced that, or was there other reasons for that?
Well, maybe subconsciously it was an influence. He took pictures of me as well sometimes for adverts and things like that. And sure. He had a studio and darkroom, and I was there quite often, so I saw him taking pictures of people. So I'm sure subconsciously somehow it was, like somehow huge influence on me. But I'm quite, well, maybe you can see that I'm quite sociable and chatty, and I like people, and I'm interested in human nature and people in general. So pretty early on, it was obvious for me that I wanted to take pictures of people, even though back then I was quite shy as a teenager. And so I started taking pictures of myself first instead of asking other people to model for me. And it was just the early days of social media, and I started posting some of those pictures on social media, and some girls from my hometown found me and asked me to take pictures of them. And these were my first commissions in a way, I guess. And then I moved to Budapest, and I started taking pictures for fashion designer students and some bands in Hungary, and just more and more commissions found me after a while. But yeah.
That's cool.
So you started the selfie movement then, by the sounds of it.
Yeah. It's not who started it, unfortunately. But yeah, I was definitely interested in self-portraits as well. And actually up until today, I am. But yeah. But if you think, as I said, I did painting as well, and I have this painterly inspiration in my work quite often. And so many like old masters used to like self-portraits. So I did some recreations of old paintings with myself as well.
That's cool. You should put those on the website as well.
Yeah, they were on my website, but like I took those pictures when I was 17, so 12 years ago. And I'm not that proud of those photographs anymore. But yeah, it was part of the journey, definitely.
Yeah. I think people like to see the journey, don't they? To see where people started from. I guess that's why the question, how did you get into photography, is so common, isn't it? It's to find out how other people got to where they are and where they started from. I think, obviously, like you said about your father influencing you, either obviously because you were there and he gave you his first camera and things like that, to the subconscious side is interesting, with the fact that you picked up on some of the things that he did do and still disobeyed him and kind of carried on with the stuff you wanted to do anyway. It's quite an interesting, I guess it happens quite a lot, doesn't it, where parents want their kids to do a certain thing and the kid kind of goes, no, I don't think that. I'll go and do something else.
Sometimes we have these fights. So like, I think secretly by now he's proud of me. He would never say that, but I kind of think he is. But even at the beginning of COVID and the first lockdown, and everything was so quiet, there were no photography jobs going on, and my father was like, "Can you see? You should have been a doctor." I'm like, yeah,
Ready for the pandemic. If you were a doctor, you'd have been ready for the pandemic.
Yeah.
People are always going to get ill, so they always need a doctor.
Exactly. And
So talking. Oh,
yes,
again.
and I was like, yeah, and obviously he's right, but yeah.
But you don't tell him that.
No.
We'll scrub that bit out on the re-record bit, just so he never finds out.
Yeah.
There'll be no evidence online about it, don't worry.
Talking about lockdown and also your father, what did you do during lockdown? How have you, obviously you said you went back to Hungary, so how has lockdown affected you as a photographer?
Actually, the first lockdown I spent in London, and did some videos for Canon as well. I'm not sure if you saw that one. I did a video.
Yeah, the R6 stuff, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one, the how to stay inventive and creative at home.
Yeah.
Did you see that one?
Yeah.
It's golden oldie already.
Yeah. So basically, I created a video on how to create like exciting photographs at home when we all have to stay in. And this was really interesting because I gave some advice on still life photography as well, or on how to take portraits and pictures of your flatmates or family members. But the main thing was, the main thing was on taking self-portraits, because as I said, I started out photography at age 17 with self-portraits. And when I started working professionally in my 20s, I didn't really have time for my personal projects anymore, especially for the self-portraits. So now I had all that free time to work on something personal. And actually, I can show you this self-portrait project.
Yeah.
Good.
Maybe that's the easiest. Hold on, am I actually sharing my screen at the moment?
You are, yeah.
Okay.
I think you'll just have to. Yeah, there you go.
Can you see it?
Yeah, it certainly can. Yeah.
So basically, I started taking pictures of myself. I was taking like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pictures during the first lockdown. And first of all, I just wanted to. Well, I was just trying out different things. I was experimenting with different techniques and lighting. That I had some ideas I would have wanted to try with models or just in some of my fashion editorials. But obviously, during the first lockdown, I didn't have the chance to work with models, so I became my own model. And first,
when you were 17.
Exactly. That's true. I didn't think about it that way, but yeah. So I was taking pictures of myself. I was recreating famous paintings again. I had some painterly references, and there's some nudes as well. And basically, I started rereading some of my favorite romantic books from when I was 17. So I was reading Wuthering Heights, Onegin, or Sorrows of Young Werther. And I actually started creating collages of these texts and books I was reading. Especially, I always loved books of like unfulfilled love stories and paintings of Ophelia or Lady Charlotte. The Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood is a big inspiration of mine. Mm-hmm. And basically, I started like scanning some of these favorite parts of these books, and I started also using some fragments of texts from my own relationships or like ex-relationships, and I just used them as part of the collages, and I thought like this is sort of the clashing of the reality and my idolized love.
What we all hope for.
Exactly. So I just created this sort of almost a book kind of thing, like a visual diary kind of thing out of it. And it's still an ongoing project.
Sure.
But so I was keeping busy during the first lockdown, answering your question.
That's good. And then obviously you mentioned the influence of your father, and you worked on a project with him, or as an ongoing project?
Well, is partly because I'll show you that one as well. So as I said, my dad started out as a photo for you. Yeah, there we go. When he was in his 20s, in the 70s, socialist Hungary. And recently started rediscovering his archive and rescanning those negatives and those pictures. And it's funny because every time when I go, I have a little 35 millimeter camera on me as well, and I just basically I'm just documenting my nights out. And it started becoming very interesting when we started putting our pictures next to each other, and sometimes you couldn't even tell them apart, like which one was taken in the 70s socialist Hungary, which one was taken in London 2017. So for example, these ones on the left are my father's pictures, and the ones on the right are my photographs.
Well, so that is crazy, isn't it? To see that there's not much difference at all.
Right? The hairstyle as well, and obviously the text helps. But sometimes there are some hidden details. I'm just looking at the pictures, maybe not on these ones, but sometimes there are some hidden details of a smartphone or
that kind of gives it away.
Yeah, but other than that, I think they're quite similar. And we just started using these pictures, or handling pictures as a mutual project, and we are planning to have an exhibition out of it because we thought it tells us about something very universal. The drive of the youth was always just forgetting about reality sometimes and just falling in love and dancing, kissing, regardless political regime or time. Yeah, so this is the project. So it's partly still ongoing because I'm still going out and taking pictures. Well,
it would be interesting to see a post-COVID part of it as well.
Yeah.
Or maybe if your dad went to the club as well and nights out and shot from his perspective as being older now and documenting the youth of today. I feel like that would be interesting to see his perspective and how those shots would come out. So maybe we'll see those in the future.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell him that.
Yeah, it's so interesting to see how the styles do. They sort of overlap. In a certain way, especially with the the nightclub stuff. It's almost like photography was in your dad's blood and in your blood, and that has literally carried forward as well. So it's such an interesting project. And you've got some of those pictures on your website as well, haven't you? So if anyone wanted to take the time and sort of enjoy them a little bit more, then you can go over to Wanda's website and have a look at those. They are absolutely awesome.
I have a lot more pictures on my website. So.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Talking about projects in general, what are your feelings about projects? Do you like them? Do you force yourself to do them? Are they a way of, I don't know, kind of just getting your thoughts together? How do projects affect you? Or...
You mean personal projects?
Yeah.
Well, my background, I studied conceptual or fine art photography anyhow, so that was my background. Fashion just sort of happened later on to me. So I still definitely think it's really important to work on personal projects as well. And even if I look at my personal work and my my fashion photographs or my portraiture, I still think there's a connection. So I'm interested and inspired by the same things in my personal projects as well. Even if I just look at the subjects and themes, I'm always interested in subcultures or youth culture or gender questions. So I still think there's a connection. And sometimes people think a fashion photograph is just a beautiful picture of a beautiful girl in a beautiful dress in a beautiful location, and that's it. And I think it's not true because I did a master course at London College of Fashion, and my course leader there was a performance artist. He never even done fashion. He was not a fashion photographer, and it was really interesting that he approached the genre of fashion photography as an art form that basically you can tell, deep messages, and basically like same kind of relevant things you can talk about in a fashion photograph than in basically an artistic conceptual photograph. Just it can reach a different audience than an art photography. And yeah, I find this very interesting. So even when I take even when I do a fashion editorial, I always try to have some, like little bit more meaning to it.
Sure.
Yeah. And obviously that's go on, Joel.
No, you go. You go, Paul.
And that's how you're sort of adding your own stamp into the work that you're producing as well. So it's great that you have personal projects, but obviously when you get sort of commissioned to do a job, then people are coming to you because you have a certain style, and it's about bringing that more emotion than like you were just saying, that pretty girl, that pretty dress. It's when people approach you, it's a case of, well, we want to see a lot more emotion in this, and I think that is it's sort of. It is a little bit lacking within the industry, and it's nice that you're sort of pushing that emotion back into the images.
Yeah, but at the same time, I'm kind of thinking or hoping that it's changing slowly, step by step.
I agree.
Right. So like even the fact that the whole fashion industry is becoming more diverse, and it's all about diversity in terms of race and age and body type. So I think these are very important things. Yeah.
Have you, just as a side question, have you ever introduced too much Wanda into a paid project and they've been like, whoa, that's a bit too over the top for what we're trying to do?
Yes, sometimes it happens.
Okay, that's interesting.
And like for example, I did a beauty story for a more commercial kind of magazine few weeks ago, and they asked me to take the pictures, and then when I'm there, they have a beautiful girl, they put a little pink blouse on her, and they just want the model to smile all the time, and obviously that's not really my kind of aesthetic, so I'm just standing there like questioning myself and everyone, like why did they choose me then for taking these pictures? Yeah, but I guess that happens. And when I do advertising, for example, like I'm trying, in every job I'm trying to have a little bit of Wanda, but sometimes it's a bit trickier when it's a commercial client.
Sure.
Yeah. When you follow in sort of certain restrictions, it's within what you're doing, but it's such a nice feeling where someone just goes up to you and goes, right, we have this product or we have this range that we want to do, and over to you. And you just have like complete foot. It's great.
Exactly.
Do you ever have paid work and you think, I'd really like to try this, but for whatever reason you can't because the time doesn't allow or whatever, but have you ever kind of had to scratch the itch afterwards and kind of get a model that looked similar just so you could kind of try out some of those things that you weren't able to try out for the paid job? Does that make sense?
Yeah, not really. Usually it goes the other way around. If I have something in mind I would like to try, definitely. I'm not gonna start experimenting in front of the client. So obviously when I'm there, I'm trying to look very professional. I know what I'm doing. I know how to set the lights. I know everything. But maybe the day before, I do a little bit of test. I make some sketches of the poses I want to see, or just testing the lights. So I usually do that beforehand.
That's interesting. So do you almost produce mood boards and kind of like almost visually write down what you want to achieve so that when you're there, you can kind of focus and refer back to it in terms of the direction, like a sketchbook sort of thing?
Yeah, especially when it comes to a fashion editorial, I always start a job with creating a mood board. Because so basically a mood board, can have inspirational images of posing or lights or just general mood or just inspirational reference images for hair and makeup and styling. And it also helps in communication to your team, towards your team. So basically you have that mood board with reference images for hairstyle and makeup. So you can send that to all your team members. It's just gonna be easier for them to understand what's the vibe you're going for. And so I always have that as a starting point. But obviously when you're on set and you just sort of brainstorm together, it can goes into different directions. But yeah, I always had it that way.
Do you find then, because you mentioned teams, so you share like this initial idea with them, do you prefer working with a team of people so you can do that brainstorming and build the idea? Is that something you like about paid work, where you can kind of afford to have assistants and people helping you out?
Definitely. Well, so it's not like I don't really have that many assistants, because I'm just, as I said, I'm a little bit impatient. I'm just trying it easier just to do it myself quickly than explaining it to my assistants. But obviously sometimes I have help. But yeah, I definitely like working with stylists and makeup artists and hairstylists. And I usually work with the same people who sort of share the same vision or the same aesthetic, and they understand what I'm going for. And because obviously even though I'm a bit of a control freak when it comes to casting, it's really important when it comes to finding my team members and the perfect location. But obviously if I have the right people around me, I trust them, and because I can't be the master of everything, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. Sure. And you said obviously they work with the same people. Do you find that over time you develop such a relationship with them that you almost don't have to tell them to do something, and they don't have to tell you, or there's not the requirement to say as many words because you know what's going on?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. If we've worked together a few times before, they're just gonna go like, yeah, I know what you want. I know what kind of makeup you want. Don't even say anything.
Do you think that helps your creative process in terms of the control freak nature and wanting to get things done quickly?
Yeah, and I can focus on other things. So I can focus on the composition, on the lights, and on like everything else, basically. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously we spoke about assistants and working with teams. So obviously when you started out, you wouldn't have had like a makeup artist and a stylist and a hairstylist and things. Are there things about that you would have liked to have known before you started, in terms of when you first kind of got into professional paid photography work?
Hold on. There was some technical difficulties.
Oh dear.
So you're asking if I would have wanted to know something when at the beginning of my career?
Yeah.
So maybe what was really
tough one.
that is a tough one. What was always difficult for me, especially at the very beginning, is the self-management part of things. Just sort of promoting yourself and introducing yourself to the right people, and after a while I had to realize it's essential. And you can be the most talented human being, if no one sees your work, no one's gonna know about it. And at first I found it very difficult to sort of emailing people, introducing myself, sending out my work to editors, to agents, to stylists, whoever. And that was sort of the fake it till you make it situation. I showed myself confident, and eventually it comes natural. So
yeah.
At the beginning, I remember when I was 18 and I emailed some model agencies asking for them to send me models to photograph, and they either didn't reply or they said no. And I was I was just being really sad. But, yeah, so I wish.
I suppose you live and learn.
I wish little Wanda knew that one day it would happen naturally. Yeah, that was not going to be a problem.
Yeah,
it's interesting that you have to work so hard. Oh, sorry, Paul.
Once again, sorry laggy for the laggy internet and all that. So,
and you're only like 50 yards away.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it? Absolutely crazy. Yeah, no, I find it so interesting that because you know, once again, when we start our careers, you know, you're turning yourself into like almost a product, aren't you? So, you know, it becomes about, you know, well, I'm not selling, you know, a pencil. I don't know why I said pencil, but there we go. But you know, you're selling yourself, aren't you? And there is that sort of like that doubt then that sort of kicks in and goes, oh, should I, shouldn't I? And again, that rejection that comes in at the very beginning is just like, you know, it just becomes part of the job. But at the very beginning, it's like, you know, when people say no, it hits hard like home so quickly. And then it just becomes, as you said, going forward, part of the job.
Exactly, just keep on trying and all that. And you know, it's funny, even now I have an agent. Up until today, I still have to do the self-management. I mean, I have to like send out emails and everything. So yeah, people have to learn it, because sometimes, you know, young American photographers or just photographers starting out ask me questions. Okay, like what's your main suggestion? And I think this is really it, the relevance of self-management and social media, actually.
Yeah.
Put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it's interesting, given that photography and social media have become, in some ways, more and more prevalent. And so standing out from the crowd is harder and harder, given people have the same access to equipment than perhaps back in the day when it was just on film and studio equipment was more expensive, or it was harder to get into the studio, and then having your film developed and prints made, and you know, it'd have to have been a physical letter or walking into somebody's office and speaking to them, rather than, you know, a DM or an email to somebody and saying, hey, do you want to work with me, sort of thing. So it's interesting though that even now, when it should be in theory easier, it's harder because you've got to graft to stand out from the rest of the people around you. And even like you said, you've got a management agent, but you still have to do that yourself.
Still have to do it on top, yeah.
Sending Instagram to the right people, or just sending out emails. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what's your biggest failure, or not necessarily failure, but what was something that maybe popped up in life and you went, oh goodness, I wish I hadn't have done that, but you learned from it, or you thought, oh, I almost made a mistake, but I kind of, through learning, I managed to see it and didn't make it, but I could have made a mistake, if that makes sense.
Yeah, when you said biggest failure, I was like, oh, but yeah. It sounds right.
Well, from today onwards, it could be coming on Photography Out Loud with Paul and Joel.
Oh, no.
So, you know, you've got something for future.
Hopefully Wanda enjoyed speaking to us.
But yeah, I think it did happen to me. Well, once it happened to me, it was a big job. And I was on set, the models were done, the makeup was ready, the stylist, everything was done. And I was just about to start taking pictures, and then I realized that batteries are at home. So yeah, it happened. So I was like, sorry everyone, I have to call a cab and go home and grab the batteries and come back. Because, you know, it was actually, I'm using one DX Mark III. So, you know, it has the big batteries, so it's not even the one that everyone else has.
Yeah.
So that was
devastated.
That was quite embarrassing. But the other one, again, I'm not very proud of, is it happened to me twice that I broke my hard drives got broken on me, and I didn't have a backup. So yeah, that was it's a learning process. So like now, if I do a job, like immediately I back up everything twice on 2 different hard drives, iCloud, whatever, everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's
learning process. So.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think everyone watching, and if you haven't been through it already, then it'll be something that people say, "Oh, buy a hard drive," or, you know, make sure you got your batteries, and, you know, it'll be all right, and then it'll happen to you, and then it's the only way people learn. Little things like this, especially with the batteries. People say to me, "Oh, I'll never forget my batteries." Oh, so you've never done it yet? So you will do it once in your life. Everyone's going to do it once, but then you'll never forget on after that. Then it's just the once that you do it and never again.
We've quite often had customers come in and they've been on holiday, or I remember one guy was a wedding photographer and he came in and said, "Do you have such and such a battery, please?" Yeah, sure, no worries. He said, "Could you charge it?" I said, "Yeah, why?" He's like, "I'm a wedding photographer and in a few hours time I have a wedding to shoot and I've left all my batteries in London." And you're like, "Ooh, that's not good, is it?" And kind of being able to help them out. But oh goodness, could you imagine the feeling in your stomach when you were going to shoot a wedding and there's no batteries? Oh, that'd be terrifying. Yep. Not good times. Cool. And talking about hard drive backup, Paul and I have had this conversation a few times about our video and photography work and having multiple backups on site, off site, in the cloud. Yeah, it's one of those. It's like one of my greatest fears is a hard drive dying.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Paul's like, "That's a bit over the top, Joel." I'm like, nope. The more backups, the better.
I'm with you. Yeah, and everywhere as well, isn't it? Put it everywhere.
Yeah, 100%. So your career advice is put yourself out there, have multiple hard drives, multiple batteries.
Yeah, the most important things and nothing else matters. Yeah.
Oh dear. Okay. So obviously you've spoken about career and the things that you've done. Are there any resources, either websites or people or like YouTube videos that have helped you kind of develop or helped you along the way?
Cool. I think even when I'm not working, even then I'm working, because even when I go to see a band playing or watching a movie or going to a museum inspire me. And actually I think my main thing is going to museums and looking at art, especially I'm obsessed with the 19th century, the romantic paintings, romantic literature as well, and the pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood. So yeah, that's always my main thing. And as I said, I have this, I think even if you put it in the description as well, that my work can be described as the mix of, romantic painterly beauty and rock and roll.
Yeah, and rock and roll. Yeah.
Lifestyle and aesthetic and all that. So I think, going to gigs as well and photographing musicians, it's always inspiring, and looking at paintings. That's my main two resources.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Do you feel like your style when you started, or even as a 17-year-old, has changed a lot, or do you think you've just refined your style over time?
I think I've always been a little gothic teenager. So even back then, I liked the same things, or I was inspired by the same things. I was obsessed with all these books, the Bronte sisters, and that was one of my main reasons to move to England for, and the music, like the subcultures, the punk and that. So, but I think back then I was just photographing like everything I liked, and I had all these influences, but I was just taking pictures of this and that and that, and then later on it became more clear what my what my inspirations were, and it started somehow subconsciously, and now when I'm creating a picture, I'm creating it very consciously. So I guess I just became more aware of what my style is.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, as you said, it became more defined.
It's and I love how you take, because you look at some of the pictures that you've done in some of the projects that you've done, and even in some of your commercial work as well. It's just like you can look at a piece of work or even a certain picture and go, oh, that looks like you said, a 19th century piece of art, but just recreated. And obviously there's there's a lot of sort of thought process that went into that original image, and that we can take from that and push forward as well. And it stops it from getting lost in history as well, doesn't it? Because some styles and some cultures do get sort of buried a little bit within sort of everything growing, and just sort of looking back and recreating, artwork that we've seen in the past, but then adding your own style onto it is a way of keeping an art form alive, isn't it?
Yeah, adding like myself, and actually adding a little bit of a modern touch to it somehow, even just with an interesting character. Because like I like shooting musicians, and I love this band I photographed called Fat White Family, and I had this beautiful location when I was shooting them, and I had this like very romantic painterly visuals, and when I was taking pictures of them, but they look very interesting, not like traditionally beautiful people, but one of the guys just smiling at me and missing one tooth and all that. So I like having that little mix of beauty and like outsider, like just weird characters.
Yeah.
Just to give modern touch to it, I guess.
That's cool. Do you ever, when you're going through either a project or a commercial project, have obviously something very set, but then something triggers you either because the model or the stylist does something, or hairstylist, and it kind of sends you off on a tangent that you want to explore, and you kind of maybe get your initial shots that you wanted, but then you can start, if you've got time, kind of explore another style or kind of another iteration of what you were trying to achieve?
Yeah. So I do a lot of fashion work and fashion editorials, but I started taking more and more portraits of actors and musicians and like celebrities or like famous people. And I think I like doing that more and more. And because even when I work with models who I choose, but it's basically I'm creating the story, and I'm the director of the story, and basically they are being actors, and I'm telling them how to pose and what to do and what kind of emotions I want to see on their faces. But so like in these kind of situations, I always have a mood board with poses, and I show them, okay, so this is the starting point. You should, this is the vibe. But sometimes it does happen with models as well, that when we start working together and we have a good like dynamism, or like we inspire each other, and the model starts moving in front of my camera, and just the whole shoot just goes into something completely different direction than what I originally had in mind, and that can be very exciting. But also when I'm working with a musician, for example, I think it needs a completely different attitude from you as a photographer, because there you are more like observing, and I just try to capture the essence or the real character of that person. And it can be still a painterly location, whatever, but I think my role as a photographer is a little bit different there, and I find that more and more exciting these days.
Sure.
Yeah, because obviously they're producing their own art, within the music, aren't they? So you're just there to try and capture what they're trying to produce, rather than when it's like a personal project. It's purely your own sort of art that you're trying to produce. So that very much sort of different things there.
Yeah.
I've got a few more questions. Do you find working with like one person or a group of people, because you said earlier that you love people and you love kind of speaking to them and getting to know them and who they are, do you find that sometimes it can take a long time to get the most out of the model or models, or have you kind of figured out a way of speeding up the process almost? Do you have certain questions, or do you say certain things to kind of put them at ease and kind of get that relationship built faster than perhaps when you first began? Have you kind of figured that out a bit better?
I definitely start every shoot with like having a chat model, just to make sure they feel comfortable. And the most important, I always have music on.
Sure. Okay, that's interesting.
Really important. Even when I'm shooting on the streets outside, I just put some music on my phone and I put it in my pocket. It just helps me to relax, and I believe, or I hope that it helps the model as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
And when I'm taking pictures, I constantly give feedback, because I do know some photographers who don't really like talking or like tell them like what to do, or like, what they think. But I always like telling them, like, like giving feedback if I like what they are doing, if I like how they are posing, and it makes them more comfortable and confident in front of my camera, and then they start relax and move more and more and just do things from however they feel. But yeah, definitely communication, chatting, talking, and music.
I like the music one.
Yeah,
I've done that with my kids when I've tried to get them to chill out enough to have photos, is put some music on. But it's interesting, isn't it? Like music is one of those things, kind of those art forms that is universal, and it has a different effect on people, doesn't it, in terms of their confidence, like you were saying, or being able to settle into a situation. Do you find that your attitude for photographing models or model is different in a studio setting versus out on location?
Well, I don't think so. I definitely prefer shooting on location than in studio, because in studio I find it a little bit more boring. I know you can be in total control of controlling the lights, controlling like what kind of backdrop you are using. But I think from storytelling point of view, it's just much more exciting if you have an interesting location. It just gives another layer to the image. But like in terms of communication with my model, I don't think it has any effects. Well, it's a good question. I have no idea. I'm gonna.
Oh, there we go.
I was just thinking, like you said with the music, being able to just have your phone for when you're out and about. I was just thinking in a studio you might be able to have the music louder or the quality's better. I didn't know if that would affect it. And also people being more settled, where, if you're in the middle of nowhere and somebody's like hungry or, do you know what I mean, needs to go to the toilet, like there's a different attitude to when it's in a studio and everything's just there maybe.
Yeah, and it's probably more comfortable for them. But I guess I'm just much happier shooting outside or shooting on location. So if I'm happy, probably everyone else is happy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose that works.
Yeah, I know. I get that. Yeah, if generally, if once again, you mentioned about like picking teams. So again, if you're on the thought of, well, if I feel happy, then if you're working with a similar team, then you can naturally think that everyone else working with you is hopefully happy. Yeah. So, or we just keep telling ourselves that.
Yeah.
For months. But yeah, I think the goal is like on set, having nice pictures at the end of the day. So
sure, yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. Do you think, as we close, we'll see if there's any questions in the comments in a moment.
Yeah, we'll go.
Are there any questions that you thought we could have asked? Is there anything that you'd like to say to people? Is there anything that you think, I really wish he asked this question?
So you don't have any more questions left?
No, I don't think so. Oh, maybe. I have one, actually.
All right.
Okay. Who are the 3 most influential people on either your life or photography or both?
Probably I have to mention my dad, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think I love Patti Smith as a musician, as a human being, as a writer. I just follow everything she does, and it would be a huge thing for me if I could photograph her sometime. So that's my main goal. It's not a book cover. It's not a Gucci campaign. It's taking portraits of Patti Smith. So that would be a huge thing for me. And
you have to speak to Canon and see if you can make it happen.
Ooh, that's a good idea. And the third one, probably I should name a photographer here, right? Because there are so many.
Well, you've got your dad as a photographer, so.
Yeah, but someone world famous, someone.
You can mention whoever
Bit
you
harsh,
like.
That, yeah.
So maybe, because there are a lot of photographers in different genres who I really like, but I've loved Tim Walker since I was 16, and I love his fairy tale world, and I love the way he photographs like famous people as well, and how he does his fashion editorials. So there's this sort of authorship to his pictures that you can definitely tell that that's his photograph. And I think let's say him.
No,
Sounds
good
good
choice.
to me.
Good choice.
Okay, I think there might be a few questions, so we'll quickly go through.
Let's go.
We had
through
a few good afternoons and hellos from people. So hello to all of those that said hello.
Thank you very much for joining us.
And okay, one guy, Rob, says, "Hi Wanda, favorite lens for portraits, Canon or non-Canon?"
So I have to be honest. I don't even have any prime lenses in my kit bag. I always use zoom lenses, and actually my favorite is the 24-72.8. I use that for everything because I like working fast and dynamic, and I like how I can just go from a portrait shot to a full-length shot within a second. So I think dynamism is more important for me than anything else. So that's my go-to lens.
I'm so glad you said that, Wanda, because that gives me so much more ammunition now. Because I like using the zoom lenses like a lot of just to be flexible, like yourself. And then so many people are like, yeah, but prime, and all that, and it's just like, but now I can go, yeah, but it's all right because Wanda Martin said.
Yeah,
I have to be honest.
Yeah. Chris was saying, is your Instagram Wanda_Martin? That's
me. That's me.
There we go.
Give me a
there
follow.
We go, Chris. Yeah. Everybody loves a follow on Instagram. Tracy says, this one's cool. I like the idea of mixed media treatment of images, something I think I might explore that a bit further. So there you go. You're inspiring Tracy from Hope to try more mixed media, which I think is interesting as photographers, because there's because it takes it almost away from being like specifically photography, doesn't it, when you mix it with other things, either writing or collage or things like that. But it's also arguably different to composite photography. You're combining a different sky with a different background or whatever. I think especially from your artistic background and having studied at university for both your degree and for your master's, and that's something that they will often kind of push, isn't it, is that kind of trying media together and not being solely focused on photography or painting, but the ability to bring in different art forms to combine to create something with arguably more depth than perhaps would be achievable in one form or another, maybe. Certainly with photography, I guess, where, although I suppose you could argue you could just take lots of pictures of everything and then combine them together. But obviously you've taken pictures of things or scanned them and then you've put on top as well, which is interesting. And a bit of a side trail here. Interesting that it was arguably easier back in the day to do mixed media because you had to print off your images to be there, whereas now a lot of us will take our photographs and they'll just be stored on a hard drive. They don't necessarily ever make it onto a piece of paper to be printed. So back in the day, you'd have like your stack of photos, and maybe you'd have enlargements or reprints, so you could cut them out and add them into a scrapbook or into an album and kind of layer up in that way. And also the way that different prints behave to being treated with different chemicals or being able to stick them to things. And yeah, I think it's interesting how you've kind of taken what you used to do in terms of the darkroom with your dad and having to produce prints, and then kind of gone back to that again, where it's not necessarily that easy to do that with digital in the same way.
And I'm definitely interested in like exploring more of the different kind of analog techniques as well. But I'm thinking about like mixing, I'm creating these collages, but even I'm thinking about creating sort of digital collages, like scanning these ones in and add some video on top as well. Just sort of some experimenting, with all kinds of mixed media stuff now.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
I love that point as well, where you're just thinking and you've got so many ideas, and just like dipping into something and trying like things is like a really exciting part of the project. I love that. So I forgot, I used to paint on my pictures in college. So I used to like, obviously photograph and then like stick them onto a piece of paper and then just like paint all over it. So I might whip out my paintbrushes again. Yeah.
That's cool. It's interesting as well how you seem not to be bound by photography. You don't feel like you have to stay in your lane as a photographer. You can, I can branch out beyond the confines of a lens and a camera. You can go to the next level with interacting with different media, which I personally think would be far more interesting for more photographers to do. It's interesting that Tracy mentions that she's going to try that now. And I wonder how much further people would be able to push their style and ability in photography by not staying in their lane as a photographer. Like, I think that would be intriguing to...
I can recommend that to everyone, just to play around, basically.
Yeah.
Maybe we should start selling paint and paintbrushes, Paul. Maybe. And encouraging our customers to...
I'll clear a shelf.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, this one's cool. Richard Wan, he's our Fuji rep, and he says, "What's the go-to song for a shoot?"
Ooh, that's a tricky one, because I'm into like hardcore punk as well, but obviously I have to. Well, sometimes I have
vibes with Paul and I.
Yep.
So sometimes I have to ask the models what they, make them feel comfortable. But usually what I'm going for is something more universal that sort of everyone knows or everyone liked, like 80s disco or like the Beatles or like 60s or something. Yeah, something which is more like my genre, so like rock and roll, but something that everyone likes.
A bit more mainstream.
Yeah. Yeah,
Paul and I would be...
to me, just put on anything, put on what you listen to, and it's like, trust me, you don't want to listen to what I listen to. I go down some dark holes. I do.
Yeah.
So.
Oh dear. Okay, and then Steve says, "Love your work, Wanda. Places of inspiration for you worth a visit: Bronte Sisters Home Museum in Haworth, Yorkshire, and Steampunk Weekend in Whitby, Yorkshire."
Wow, actually, I went to the Bronte Museum. I loved it.
Cool.
But what was the other one? Hold on.
It was Steampunk Weekend in Whitby, Yorkshire.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. Thank you.
There we go, Steve. You've given her a pointer. Maybe we should do an event there.
Yeah.
Try and do a photography event at a Steampunk Weekend. There we go. We'll have to speak to Canon Wanda.
Yeah, definitely. Right, I think we're about there on time. So, Wanda, absolutely lovely having you on. So, we'll just pop you back on in the bottom bit, is it, or in the wings, or in the green room?
In the green room. The green room.
In the green room, we've called it in the past, isn't it? So, but yeah, it's absolutely wonderful having you, and I'm sure we're going to get loads of. Well, I'm telling everyone now. Big thank yous to everyone. To Wanda. Thank you very much for joining us, Wanda. We'll speak to you shortly, just after we just wrap up. I still don't like pushing that remove button. I tell you from
it feels rude.
It certainly, I hate it. You're gonna have to start doing it from now on, Joel.
Yeah.
Definitely. How good
me
was
the
that?
bad guy. That was really good.
I love that. Right up my street. It really was.
Definitely.
You know,
We definitely need to try and do a workshop.
Yeah.
Like an event with Wanda. That'd be cool.
Just make sure I'm not. You don't allocate me in the shop if we do get one.
Yeah.
Across. Okay.
We'll make sure we have some big speakers as well for some good music to go on as well.
Yeah. Love it. Joel, any final thoughts before we break up for the weekend?
Yes, I do actually, and it's got nothing to do with the weather.
Okay, well done.
Go to your local art and craft shop and buy some paint and other cool things and scissors that cut crinkly. I don't know. I think it'd be cool for you to try and be a bit different to, just being stuck on Lightroom or Photoshop. Try something more out there. What are you laughing at?
Just the crinkle curve.
I feel like that's what you get given as a kid. Here's your art and craft set. Here's a pair of scissors that make everything like wibbly wobbly.
Oh, brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. Right. Thanks for that, Joel.
What are you thinking, Paul? What are you thinking for the weekend?
Do
you want wibbly wobbly scissors?
I've got loads of ideas now. Like my thought process is in that, like, I want to try a load of different things. So I'm very much looking forward to doing a bit of experimenting over the weekend. So big thank you for everyone that's tuned in live. It's always lovely to see, again, some lovely comments that we've had come through on the live video. So if you haven't done already, make sure you go on to Instagram. What was it? Wanda Martin?
Martin, yeah.
Yeah, you can go over
She's nodding her head in the background.
Yeah, so we've got it right.
That is right.
If you want to see any of the other videos that we've done on Photography Out Loud, you can search under the hashtag Photography Out Loud. Please make sure that you like this video, share this video as much as you possibly can. It really does help us spread the word about what we do here on Photography Out Loud, and also as Cambrian Photography as well. So again, big thanks, and we'll see you all. Hold on, I'm having to slow down because I've lost the video for the outro.
Oh dear. Yeah, and your
we
outro
will
is
see
better
you
than your
next
intro.
week. Next week we've got James from Fujifilm coming on, haven't we? So that'll be good.
We do.
There's the video. Thank you very much. We'll see everyone next week. Bye-bye for now.
Cheers.